Well, this is it's fun. We're getting to do kind of an addendum to Tuesday night. So if you guys don't know, on Tuesday night we get to have a couple of guest speakers, and one of which is a good friend of mine, Drew Worsham, flying in from San Antonio, Texas. Flew through a big ice storm in Texas that made his plane delayed 6 hours, and so we get to have this conversation. And Tavi and I were talking, and we kind of realized, like, a lot of times we get to hear someone maybe teach on a Tuesday night, but we don't really get to know them. So we don't get to hear their ideas and even about their life. And so I think a lot of times people wish they could sit down with our speaker and ask him questions and pelt him with things. And even the subject you're talking about tonight is just one that I think a lot of people struggle with. So we thought, let's have a little bit of an addendum to Tuesday night. Like we always say, we are more than a Tuesday night. So we'll call this our more than a Tuesday night kind of conversation that we get to have with you. So first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, what do you do? What's your family like? And then what do you love about the place you live?
Yeah, so my family and I live in San Antonio, Texas. We've been there for about 10 years. My wife and I are both from Texas originally, before we moved up to Washington State, where Juan, where you and I met.
Yep.
On campus of Washington State University.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. And so we live there. We have 2 kiddos. We've got a 7-year-old little girl and a 4-year-old little boy. And then we are, any day away from welcoming baby number 3.
Any day?
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So
we're taking you away from your wife. Very close to potentially
yes.
having a baby.
Yeah, we get a couple weeks.
Okay.
So, but the others were early, so we kind of, any moment we're ready. And so we have a little girl. So that's that's my family. We do a lot of gymnastics, and kids love reading. And so I just feel like it's nonstop adventures in our house.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. So I met Drew. Okay, so I met Drew from a peripheral, probably 2008, roughly. I was a freshman at WSU. I'd heard about Drew Worsham. A lot of my friends were like, man, Drew is so awesome, loves Jesus, and does magic. Illusion, sort of, different, whatever you want to call yourself. I like magic, but, and I remember getting to just be in your presence throughout college and thinking, like, man, I wish I could get to know this guy. And then you got married and didn't invite me to your wedding. I'm just kidding. We didn't know each other that well. We didn't know each other that well. It would make sense that I would not have been there. No, I'm not there. My brother was there, which is a little bit of a jaded moment for me. It's fine.
Salt to the wound. I'm so sorry.
My twin brother. But anyway, and I got to know you because I came on staff with a church that you were working at. Mm-hmm. And so since then, both of us have transitioned, and a lot of those transitions have been both like fruitful and then also hard. And so I'd love to hear, like, from your perspective, how is that sort of transition out of maybe a pastoral ministry sense and more like you're equipping the church, you're helping equip young people to like walk with Jesus, all that. Like, how has that transition been for you?
Yeah, well, I think the way you set it up is spot on. It's like mixed. Like, I don't think I ever thought I was going to be a church planter or pastor. So we kind of just stumbled upon that in Washington State. Like, literally was performing magic and illusions. Most of what I do is in the category of mentalism, kind of the mind, cerebral side of magic. And was performing at Wazoo, and met a guy who wanted to plant a church that kind of loved the college students at the campus. We're like, actually sounds kind of awesome. So was there for 10 years, and we did that, and then we moved to San Antonio to help a church kind of think about church planting. We planted a church out of that and was the lead pastor of that for about 5 years. And I think anytime you transition, like even leaving Washington State to move to San Antonio is difficult. I think even though we felt free to do that, we felt like God was opening up doors. It feels like, some people feel like you're abandoning them and you're not always sent out. And so I think relationally that was felt like a little bit of a breakup. And then, man, I don't know how deep to go, but so in 2023, my son was about a year old, had lots of health complications. The church that I was leading was growing really, really fast, and I was still traveling. And my wife, man, just had a moment where she was like, something's got to give. And we joke, because we had this kind of Pete Scazzaro moment where she said, I think I'm going to start I'm going to start going to another church. And I was like, wait, what do you, like, our church is amazing. And I just like wanted to list all the things that we were doing that were phenomenal, how authentic it was. It was like fresh. And I mean, so many people who were seeking and people who had been hurt by the church were coming. I was like, our church is phenomenal. And she said, no, it really is. She's like, I don't have a problem with the church. I have a problem with the pastor of the church. Dang. And I was like, you're just like, hey, I don't feel like we're a priority. I feel like we get what's left over. And so that kind of moment, it was an eye-opening moment that we went on a sabbatical and just kind of started doing this like deep dive of like, okay, both my own walk with the Lord, this life mapping thing, and just got to a point where I started to realize that I was functioning outside of my gifts. Like, I love discipleship. I love walking with people. I love pastoring, but I don't love organization, like leading organizations. I don't love managing budgets and, finances and trying to think what we're going to do for the building and operations. And I was doing all of that, and it had just spread me so thin that like my family wasn't getting much. So after the sabbatical, we decided to kind of step off the staff of the 501c3 that we had started. And so that's kind of the language that we use. I still pastor in San Antonio. I'm just not on staff at a church. And now I get to help equip churches. I get to help, coach pastors, and I get to pour into it. We're heavily involved with our church in San Antonio. But I think the hardest part, to kind of come back to your question, is I don't think people know what to do with a healthy transition. I think people just, because of all the stuff that you see on the news, Hillsong, like the scandals. And so when I was like, hey, I'm stepping off staff, everybody like, what happened? Is Jane okay? And my wife, like, did you do something? Like, no, like, gosh, we both still love Jesus, and we love the church, and we love each other. I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so, that was really confusing for a lot of people. And it got a little rocky for a bit.
How did your walk with Jesus start? Like, what was your early life like with the Lord? How did you end up in ministry?
Yeah. Two great questions. So I didn't really grow up in church. Had a youth pastor who moved into the neighborhood, started leading this church, had 2 students in his youth group, and knocked on my door and was really persistent. And then eventually it was like, let me just take you out to eat. So it was my first taste of like discipleship. And that's when we met and how we do ministry, so much of it was shaped by this like highly relational, doing life side by side, not come to an event or come to our church. And he just invested in me. And it was like the first time I'd seen this, a godly man. I'd seen a godly husband. And I looking back, I realized he discipled me, and to a point that eventually I said yes to Jesus. And I never thought that I would like do like vocational ministry. Like, I went to school, studied psychology. I was going to be a counselor. I had started, doing magic late in high school, and so once again, didn't think I would ever be a magician. That was so weird. It's just like these doors opened up. I had a lady ask me to do a birthday party for her son. I was like, sure. Then there was a lady who owned a restaurant. I was at that birthday party. I was like, hey, would you come do this? I'm like a week into that. A lady who owns an insurance company goes, hey, could you come and do this? I was like, totally. I just started following Jesus at that time. And so at the very end of the show, I was like, oh, Jesus loves you, God bless. And then one of the ladies that worked at the insurance company, her husband was a youth pastor. He goes, hey, could you come share that with our youth group? So while I'm in college, I'm just starting to kind of bounce around and share with, churches. So much so that when I graduated, there was enough momentum. I was like, I'll just try this.
Yeah. And
I feel like most of my life, it's just been like with ministry, just like, sure, we'll give it a go and see what happens. And if it lasts a couple weeks or last month, we'll see. And I just kept traveling. Same thing with church. It was like, okay, why not? Like, I'll give it a shot. Like, I barely spent much time in a church. Like, 'cause in college, I wasn't super connected. So it was like, let's figure it out. Like, the first small group that I'd ever been a part of, I let it out of my apartment.
That's awesome.
And so
That's
there was
so
this
cool.
beauty of going, I don't know what this is supposed to look like, but this is what I want. This is what I hope it would be like. I remember going, I think we should have meal. We should eat. And that was when we first started adding meals to, I think it should be like a living room and not in a classroom. And so, yeah, I would say the Lord is sovereign and he knows what he's doing, but it was just a bunch of just going, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's try it. And
That's
then,
so cool.
yeah. And then I think now later in life, I think especially when sharing stepping off staff at a church, what I've realized is that all of us are called to ministry. Like the moment we say yes to Jesus, we're all given this ministry of reconciliation, but God wires us differently to wear different uniforms in order to carry out that ministry. And so, but yeah.
So good. I feel like a lot of times as a Christian, when you hear magic, you're kind of like, oh,
Totally.
So like, how do you walk that tension of just totally taking them both and using them for like God's glory?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is probably the number one, I guess opposition I get sometimes. People like, oh wait, magic, like doesn't the Bible clearly say we shouldn't have anything to do with the magical arts? And obviously what scripture is talking about is not what I do, with tricks and illusions and I didn't know any better. Like, I'm learning these few tricks. I would do it for my friends, and then I start following Jesus. And what I realized is that this art form naturally creates a little bit of curiosity and wonder, so people lean in. And when I gained that moment, their attention, I was like, oh, can I just share with you what's changed my life? So it was so natural for me. It wasn't probably till later people were like, what? I don't know if you can do that. And I joke off that I was like, man, if I could do anything, if I could juggle or, like whatever, I think you could do all things for the glory of the Lord. And so I love it. I've been thinking a lot about it recently in the sense of like, in many ways, like there's this deception, but it's a deception that has permission, like that the audience get, like almost like going to a movie. Like I know that that's not really Spider-Man, or I know that's not really some of the superhero, but I'm giving, the theater or my permission to get caught up in the story and be amazed. And so I think in a weird way, I've fallen in love with like the authenticity of the illusion. Like to go, hey, we're all agreeing to kind of step into this childlike space and have fun together.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So.
I feel like that's kind of, I think, pretty special when you think about the amount of people who come to, even to Jesus in a really childlike way. A lot of people who maybe have experienced this moment of like, man, God has revealed himself to me in a really serious way. And you're telling people like, this is, at the end of the day, you have to know this is, what I'm doing is not, there's no way you come here and think, and I got in your mind so deeply. I know all your thoughts. It's like the God of the universe knows all your thoughts. Like he's the one who knows you deeply and intimately. And as special as this all felt to you, like, man, this is the gospel. Like this is who you can give yourself to. And I think that's something beautiful. I think that you've always done with this gift. And sometimes people think that I have to be a special person. I have to be a pastor in order to be used by God. Or we talked to Nate about this last week. Like I have to have all these perfect gifts and these talents in order for God to like even want to use me. And so if you were talking to a young adult and you were like, hey, I just used what God gave me and God used it however he wanted. I think Greg Kokel, who you're good friends with, a year ago told me, I learned to be faithful with the thing that was right in front of me every year of my life. And God he just opened up doors to use my gifts however he, found fit. And it really led to his glory in my life. And I've arrived here in my older age having so much influence, but that wasn't the aim of my life, was making much of Jesus with whatever he gave to me. So yeah,
man, I think when we've talked about this, I think we live in a strange culture that feels like, gosh, like I want to be famous
Yeah.
So then if I become famous, I can make Jesus famous. You know, if I had a, it was Taylor Swift, or if I had this big social media following, or if I could write a book, whatever that thing is, and we're waiting for some type of major platform to be faithful. And I just don't feel like Jesus like ever works like that. He's like, no, like you be faithful with the thing that's right in front of you, like Greg said. And then we'll see what's next. I think that was, for us, it was like, be faithful to, let's have some college students in my apartment, or let's try to start a gathering and see what happens. I think of 2 stories in the, in the scriptures. I think about, Jesus feeding the 5,000, and, the disciples come to Jesus and like, okay, hey, like everybody's hungry. We should give them some food. And Jesus goes, well, feed them. And they're like, dude, we could go into town and all work for a year and barely get them like some crackers and a shot of grape juice. Like, I guess it wouldn't work. And, you've got this boy with this like little, Hebrew Lunchable who would probably barely feed him, but he's like open-handed about it. He's like, this is what I got.
Yeah.
And then Jesus does the miraculous, because it's not about the boy. We don't even know the boy's name. It's about us taking the little bit that we have and go, I'll be faithful with this. I'll give it to you. And if you can feed 5,000, great. If not, I trust you. And I think that's the beauty of that story. And then there's another, I totally went blank. But I think just that we be faithful with what he's given us in these moments, these opportunities, the relationships. Like, I think, we so often want, like, I want to be on a podcast, and then I could share the, or if I had a big TikTok following, then I'd make videos. You go, but you're not even being faithful to love your roommate, and to share with them, and to go like, be faithful there. And God used that. I remember the other one. Acts 4. Boop. Little timer.
The lights just go off?
I think it did.
Yeah.
That's all right. Let's go. Back on.
It's moving now.
All right,
There we go.
Acts
That's
4.
fine.
In Acts 4, where Peter and John have this moment where they just share the story of the gospel of Jesus, and thousands of people surrender their life to the Lord. Like, there's a riot. And when the religious elite show up, they go, hey, they look at Peter and John, they go, there's a couple of things that we notice. Like, there's nothing special about them. They're like ordinary. They're not educated. They don't have seminary degrees. They don't have, this pedigree. They're not like talented or, all this charisma.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's obvious is they've been with Jesus. And so I think about that faithfulness and that nearness to Jesus is what I would, and then trust him to do whatever he wants. What if God doesn't want you to have a big TikTok following?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need that. So be faithful with the people that he's put in your path.
Yeah, that's almost it's almost like the tension. Like, Todd and I always talk about this. Like, it's like when you meet, maybe you meet your like favorite speaker or something, and then you like are in their presence, and you're like, this person doesn't care about people. Like, you just have a platform, and that's a bummer. And I think I've really wrestled sometimes with, we're at this like really incredible church, and there are a lot of people, and sometimes that idea like people know my name and people know who I am, and I'm at a grocery store and someone's like, thank you so much for what you said this last week or whatever, and it gets into your head, and you find yourself like, man, I'm wrestling with this like weird desire for people to know me more than they know Jesus, and I have to like lay this desire for like being known at the feet of Jesus and ask him to kill that in me, because at the end of the day, like, I want to know Jesus, come and make him known, and then die and be forgotten. That's that Zinzendorf, right, quote. And so I'm going to declare Jesus as much as I can, knowing that 3 generations from now, maybe 4, those kids who are in my lineage will not even know my name. They won't know my history, but if they know Jesus' name because of my faithfulness, that's like more than enough. And that's what I'm down for. So I think we've been trying our hardest to try to say, like, how do we develop this in young adults who sometimes see all of these figures who have a huge platform. You have a really sweet platform. You've done things in front of passion. You and Louis Giglio are like good friends. You would never tell anyone that. Who cares? You would never name drop that. Name dropping is lame. But at the same time, like, you're around these incredibly godly, influential men and women, and you're in rooms where people are just praying, seeking the Lord, asking Him to move, and they want to be forgotten. Like they want to get out of God's way. I think that's really special, and sometimes it's really humbling, I think, to a guy like me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think like what's a way that you like keep your eyes really on the prize and on Jesus in a way, like in a culture really that maybe is like even a little bit weird of like the Christian influencer like area environment. Like what's a way that you just are like, I'm chasing after Jesus and all of the other stuff is just like stuff.
Yeah, I think my wife plays a huge role in that. I think, part of our journey, gosh, and I'm sure I've maybe told it very like smooth and easy, but it's still rough. Have your wife look at you and go like I feel like you're not here. I feel like we can't trust you. And I think that journey, my son and everything he's walked through, hard times do this like really interesting thing too. Like my wife uses language that it unplugs you from the matrix. You've seen that movie. It's this moment where all of a sudden you go, oh wait, like all the platforms, big stages, the who do you know, the how many like social media following you have. I mean, it really is, like, pun intended, it's an illusion. Like it's not real.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like a post doesn't mean you're having impact. And I think that's the reminder. That's what keeps me grounded. It's like, oh, this is like not real. And I think my family of going like, hey, like no stage will ever compare like to the fact that I get to be a dad, to these 2, almost 3 kiddos. Like they are the greatest like creative project, poem, sermon I'll ever put into the world. And I think I've watched a lot of my friends chase the wrong thing. And so I think it's going like, oh, like, and I remember when my son was in the hospital, it was easier to keep people updated via Instagram.
Wait, can you give us context for that? Just so,
so your
son's in the hospital.
Yeah, there's a lot. Backstory, son was born early, holes in his heart, brain hemorrhages that led to 2 years of just marked failure to thrive. Something's majorly wrong. We don't know what it is. So we had like 13, 14 specialists. This summer had open heart surgery. Like we found out recently he's one of 50 cases of this like super rare genetic issue. So yeah, he's got a journey that we've been on. So his whole first year of his life, we were in and out of the hospital. And so we were trying to keep people updated with social media. It was like easier because instead of texting everybody back. And I remember my wife at one point just said, hey, I don't know if this is our story to tell. Fast forward when he gets to be a teenager, and all of those posts, like they're out there. Even if we delete them, like they're on the internet. You can Google, you can find them. And I was like, what if he doesn't want to be the sick kid?
Yeah.
What if that's not the story? Like,
wow.
It's not just ours to tell, it's his to tell. So we kind of pulled back, and we're like, hey, those that know us and love us, then we'll just get to share with them, to follow up, not to share with everyone. And that, something in that sparked, I think, a wrestling of just me kind of constantly questioning all of my motives. Or maybe more positive is like being curious. So like I take my daughter to go get donuts on Thursdays, and we take a photo, and she's super cute. She looks like her mom. And I go, oh my gosh, if I post this, I know it will get more likes than anything else I posted this week or last week. And then I have to wrestle with going, but wait, who am I posting this for?
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't have Instagram. Is this for like a model to everyone? Like this is what a dad does? Is it because I know that she's cute and it's clickbait and it'll get a lot of likes? So then I go, am I pimping my daughter's cuteness out for me to get more attention and likes?
Yeah.
And go, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that, and there's something, or why am I posting this? What am I trying to do? And so I think I'm constantly going back to go, is this for me? And if it's for me, like, then when I step back, if it's for the Lord, because I've noticed that when it's for me, it's for my pride.
Yeah.
And when Scripture is so clear that, man, God opposes the proud. So then I go, how far is this going to go? Sure, it got all this attention, but God is so not pleased. I go, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to chase a platform. So I think I feel that same way about teaching tonight. Like there is a part of my flesh that steps into that moment and goes, I want all of you to like me.
Yeah.
I want you to be impressed with how well I teach or with the magic trick or whatever. And I have to like go, okay, God, like that's in me. And can you help me? Like not get caught up in that. So I think that's that unplugging from the matrix of going, so sure, 500 people are impressed, tonight, but I go to the airport and nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
And so the question is not how amazing was I, but how faithful was I?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's good.
No, I think that's helpful. Like we've talked about that a lot. Like Andrea is no longer on social media. And that's in some ways has really messed with our conversations. I'll take a really cute picture of Hallie or something and then post it on my stories. And then before I know it, I'm like, wait, why did I post that? My family all got I already sent the picture to my family.
Totally.
They've already seen it. Andrea's not on social media. So what am I doing? And I've had to wrestle with like, oh, do I want people to be in my life or do I want them to be jealous of my life? Am I trying to put on a fake facade or am I like, what am I doing this for? And it's been interesting being a pastor who lots of young adults, they connect with me via social media first. And knowing like, I think there has to be limits to this and some rules around this that Andrea and I are kind of trying to figure out and saying like, how do we do this well? Yeah. And know that like, who cares? And I don't know. I think sometimes hard moments in life, especially with our kids, remind us of like the brevity of life. Like nothing is promised, like holding Hallie as she's like really sick. She has asthma and reactive airways. And we've had a lot of hospital stays, Christmas Eve hospital stay, and realizing like, I have everything that I could ever need. Like, I don't know why I think I need people's applause, the applause of many people to make me feel fulfilled or whatever. But you kind of talk about, doubt and curiosity. We've had this conversation multiple times. Even as I wrestled, leaving our last church context and coming to a new church context, in that transition, I had to like wrestle with like, is God good? Like, why would I spend 13 years of my life with this other church and these other people only to then transition? And in some ways, the transition not be a celebration, but almost a betrayal and having to wrestle with, is God angry with me? Is he frustrated with me? I've lost a lot of relationships in this transition. And ultimately, like, I'm doubting God's goodness. And I had to really just sit with the Lord and get angry with him. And I think sometimes it can feel like, oh, God can't handle that. Like God can't handle your late night, midnight cries as you're driving through the middle of nowhere because you're frustrated that life isn't easy. And in that, God did some crazy stuff in my life. Yeah. Some faith got rooted so deeply in me that I believe that God is in control. Without that moment, I don't think I would have trusted that. And so in the same way, like, you talk about doubt and faith and those two things being this beautiful picture. And you've written about that stuff too. So I'd love to hear just more about kind of the whole process for you and wrestling with all that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think first off, let me just make a side note. If you post on social media about your kids, or that's not necessarily simple. I'm talking about for me, that was the journey.
Yes.
So I feel like I need to because that would be the one
good caveat, right?
Like, hey,
soundbite.
Yeah.
We'll post just that.
Yes. I feel like the older I get and the more I walk with Jesus, I'm just learning he's just so much bigger than I ever thought he could be. I think like when we worked together at this church, like it's so easy with any ministry to go, oh, this is where God is the only place that God is working. Yeah. We get caught up in our little bubble, like this is it. And to leave, and I think we have to, once again, constantly being curious about our motives and stuff, going like, hey, when you, after 13, 14 years of investing in a place, to leave, relationships are hard, but like, sometimes it's fear of like, hey, did I waste all this time building a kingdom? And it exposes our flesh, this kingdom for myself, versus going, no, I was faithful in my 14 years, and somebody else will pick it up, and it doesn't matter. It's about Jesus. And I get to, and I think also the bigness of even knowing that, hey, just like God was in Washington and was in Idaho, he's in Minnesota. Like he's working all these places, and we get to just join him wherever he is. And I'm not a perfect dad, far from it. But I think about, my own kids and going like, would I be disappointed if if Tilly's like, hey Dad, I had fun in gymnastics this year, but I kind of want to play soccer. No. I'd be like, okay, let's go play soccer. Because I don't care the sport, because I'm going to be there regardless. And I think sometimes we feel like God is like he's at the end. The Robert Frost, okay, 2 roads diverge, and I took the road less traveled, and it made all the difference. I think we think God's that way. Like there's these choices. Sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 paths. God's at the end of one of these paths. That even the way we pray, so God, which one do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And I think so often God goes, pick. Because I'm not at the end of one of these paths. I'm going to walk with you. And this is what Isaiah would hear. He's like, literally it says, as you turn to the left or the right, you hear a voice behind you saying, no, this is the way, walk in it. And I think God goes, now there's some sinful ones that should be off limits. There's boundaries. But then sometimes God goes, pick. So we also do a lot of ice cream dates with my kids. And for some reason, my daughter Tilly's got to this place where, and this might be a little spicy, so I'm still processing it, where every time she'll try like 3 flavors. So it's like, say they do like vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. And every time she goes, Dad, which flavor should I get? And I go, you pick. She goes, no, I can't. You pick it. And so I've learned to start asking her the question. She goes, hey, which flavor do you like the best? She's like, strawberry. I go, you should get strawberry. And it just dawned on me the other day that if my daughter had like a nut allergy, there would be certain flavors that are off limits. Rocky Road, pistachio, like, no, I want you to stay away from this because you get hurt. Like sin.
Yeah.
But in the chocolate, strawberry, vanilla, what I desire is what she wants the most. And, you can joke about, well, but choosing a job, that's not ice cream. Like that, this is a big decision. You're like, well, but to Tilly, that's the biggest decision she's ever made. Choosing what flavor of ice cream on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And so, I think God a lot of times is like, you want to go to Minnesota? All right, let's do it. Like, you want to do this? Let's do it. Like, you want to be a teacher? Let's try it. And I think we get so caught up, oh no, like, and I remember my counselor when I was deciding wrestling to step off staff, he asked that question. He goes, Drew, what do you want? And my answer was, well, I want God. I want to be obedient. I want what God wants. And he just loved it. And he goes, that's the biggest cop out I've ever heard. He's like, that way you can blame God if it goes wrong. Yeah. Versus just owning this decision and stewarding the life that he's entrusted you. And once again, I'm not writing a book on this, not yet anyway, but I think if you think about the talents and the stewarding the talents, the only servant that waits for the master's instruction is the one that hid the talents. The other 2 are given and they just go off and invest. They don't wait to ask. Yeah. And it's the one who doesn't go, I waited and God, you never told me to go across the street and love my neighbor. And he's like, no, yeah, I definitely did. Just go do it. You don't you don't have to, you don't need my permission to love people and to, I don't know, to be light in a dark place. So that has been, I think, super freeing. It's still hard saying goodbye, but I think just as you were talking about leaving and moving, it just feels like that decision probably felt heavier than even getting married. Like it's just like, oh, am I gonna screw everything up? Yeah. I was like, nah.
Yeah, we came from a culture that was like, to leave would be to violate God's will in a lot of ways, and I'm saying that with a lot of emphasis. And obviously, there's nuance here and perspectives and people and all of that. But it's kind of funny that story is a story that tipped me over the edge to say, man, God has created me with desires, And he's created me in such a way that his providence and my desires many times complement each other. And sometimes we're told like, man, my deep is obviously not sinful. Man, I have a desire to transition. I have a desire to be developed. I have a desire to be under church leadership that I really trust. And that feels wrong. And realizing like, no, God has given me over to some of my deepest longings and desires. And those things many times do complement his will. Obviously when there's sin, and I brought lots of accountability, and I brought friends in to process with me. I spent a lot of time in prayer. I fasted. I spent time in God's word. I really was like doing all of it. And so it almost felt like that we had that conversation. I think I remember standing in front of a brick building. I was outside. It was snowy, and I called you, and you said that maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, but you told me the ice cream story, and I was like, man, you're like, what do you want to do, Juan? Not to blame God. You don't transition and then you're like, oh, this went bad. God, it's all your fault. It's like, no, God is with you. God is going with you. He's not leaving you behind. He's not staying in Idaho and leaving you there. And those doubts and those wrestle, like, in some ways it made me really, really curious to like, how has God created me innately? What I've been created for, good works that God has created me for to accomplish in this world that give him glory. And I'm going to ask him to have his will be done in my life. And then I'm going to go make some decisions. And I'm going to stop sitting idle, because idleness tends to be a place where sin like flourishes. But yeah, that wrestle was really helpful. And I think a lot of times people will have to wrestle throughout their lives, and they see like wrestling as, that just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem like God would want to do that. It's like, we're dependent creatures. We're called to be dependent on God, which means we don't always know the answer, and we need God's help. And these hard decisions help us to lean into the Lord, which is helpful. So God is providential. He has a will that will not be thwarted. And many times his will and our deepest longings and desires, like, they really align. Obviously invite people into that. It's nuanced, obviously. But
yes. Yeah. But yeah, like, God is piecing, all of those desires. Yeah. Like, where do they think they came from? Like the talents, the gifts, like God pieced all of that when he was weaving you together inside your mother's womb. Like, yeah, he's not like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be that talented in that area. It's like, no, I gave you that. Like, I didn't know that you would desire to, want to lead. Like, it's like, no, I gave that to you. Yeah. And so I think, man, I don't know. And I'm just learning that he's just a really, really good father. And, I don't know. I think I've been learning these last couple of years of like, what does it mean to like stop working for God and just learn to be his son. And there's just so much more freedom in that. And it's like, okay, God, you love me. You're proud of me. And the goal is just to be close to you every step of the way. And if there's parts of the journey that make it to where there's distance, I don't want that. Yeah. But like life is so complex and hard, and it's the wrestling that, God's people literally are named Israel, which means, we'll talk about this a little bit tonight, it means wrestles with God. Yeah. He names his people, gives them the name, those who wrestle with me. And so, it's a part of it.
I think young adults, like especially at the Co, most of them are in a transition where they are having to make a ton of choices and are kind of going back and forth with what is God's will for my life versus what's not, and just kind of walking that line, always deciding between left and right. Like, what would you say to them and like the day-to-day decision making, whether it's job or should I move here or should I move there? Further than like, I know that my heart desires this, but what about my family's desire, and what about my future spouse's desire? What do you think? What's a process to go through with the Lord? How to process through things like that?
Man, each conversation would be so different, right? And nuanced. But 30,000 foot, here's what I would say. I think our calling, and we overcomplicate it. I think what I know we're called to is to love Jesus with every fiber of our being. And then Jesus says a second is equally important. It's to love every person that he puts in our path in this journey. We'll call him a neighbor. And so, like, that's it. Like, what I'm called to is to love Jesus and to love those he puts in my life. And a major way that we do that as a follower of Jesus is discipleship, which is just spiritual parenting. Okay, so it's giving back, like, to those you're walking alongside of you. That's the number one way you love people and love Jesus. So if you simplify that, okay, those two things are what I'm called to. I think every one of us is follower of Jesus. Then you get to go based upon where I live, stage of life I'm in, what I'm gifted in. How can I do those two things to the best of my ability? And there may be like an occupation or a road that'll make it really hard for me to love Jesus with everything I've got. Okay, then I need to pay attention to that. That's probably, I don't want to go down. This one really sets it up well. Sometimes there might be seasons where this one allows me to love people really well, but then I need to make sure that I'm a part of a community and a part of the co, so they can remind me to love Jesus as I go to my work, and I'm constantly loving these people that I do side by side. But I think when we know, like, hey, like I know that a lot of people, it scares them to death to step on a stage, to try to like the mental gymnastics, that you have to do a magic trick and to do it in front of people, like stresses my wife out. I love it. Like I feel wired for it. And so that's like interesting. I could do that. And while I'm doing it, I can love people and I can love God. And, I'm wired. I like to travel. I love to be home too, but some people that's really hard. So it's just kind of like, hey, what are these, how am I wired that sets me up to love people and to love God? So I go to the gym, yes, to stay healthy, but it is a great way that I get to love part of my community. And so, yeah, that's kind of the filter I use for most decisions.
That's great. Love that.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of helpful because a lot of times we overcomplicate some of this stuff and we make it really, really serious. And making decisions obviously has some consequences, right? Like I moved to New York City. I know nobody. I don't get involved in the community. And then my faith gets sort of derailed as I do that. And so you kind of go into those moments with some like strategic qualities, and parameters around like when I transition, this is what I do. But at the end of the day, like, man, love the Lord your God. There are some things that come with that, right? Yeah. I'm going to get involved in a healthy community. I'm going to get involved in relationships that love Jesus. And then love my neighbor. Man, that healthy community hopefully is teaching me how to make disciples in my city and to contextualize the gospel in a way that allows me to be good news wherever I am. I think people sometimes hear that and they hear the simplicity, but then they don't actually like actualize that. And so I think that's really helpful. Yeah. It's simple. It's beautiful. I've been saying this lately to young adults. Like sometimes we're so afraid to do something that seems different. And it's like you can do lights and camera and action. You can do anything for 1 year. Like you can do a whole bunch of random stuff. And as a single young adult, like you have the most flexibility. Like obviously you feel the weight of, okay, I'm here right now. If Jane were to call me in an hour and say, yo, I'm going into labor. Hold on. No, but like seriously, there would be a responsibility that you have that a young adult doesn't have. And so I think there's a beautiful kind of picture to tell someone, hey, you can do a whole bunch of stuff and ask those questions, filter it through this, invite your community into this decision as you make it, but know that like you're going to be the most responsible for that decision. You have agency to make decisions in the world. And God can use a whole bunch of circumstances to make a really beautiful picture. And so that's pretty fun.
Can I, if you don't mind me asking, you guys have asked so many good questions, but I mean, because I think this God's will and decision making is so heavy, but I mean, I know both of you major transitions in the last year, and Tavia, you just mentioned a little bit of your story, but I know like it's, I mean, even this role, it's a shift from
very much
like
so.
For you, like what gave you the confidence?
I mean, originally when the role was presented with me to come work at Grace, I laughed about it. I was like, I am not doing that. I have a business degree. I'm not leaving my corporate job that I worked my whole college career for. It's not happening. But what really made the biggest difference to me is I have a lot of peace in what the Lord has for me. And I feel like I've always had a good pulse on like what God probably thinks is a good idea for my life, sort of. And so I think for me, the biggest thing was to seek community and wise counsel. And every single person that I talked to about making the transition, like because it was not something that seemed like it should work. And it is a transition that I feel like a lot of people should have been like, no, what? Like, you just went to college and got this degree and you're going to go do something completely different just 2 years in? Like, you're just getting your footing. Like, that makes no sense. And every single person I talked to, my parents, everyone was like, yeah, I think that just sounds perfect for you. And that was like the craziest thing to me. And then once I started like kind of opening my heart to it, because people were saying that, it was like the Lord provided the perfect steps into that transition. Like, even telling my boss that I was leaving my job after she had poured a lot into me over the last 2 years, right away she was like, you know, like, that stinks, but that makes perfect sense. And it was like something I was dreading. Like, I was like hyperventilating going into a meeting to tell her, and it just felt so like ordained by God. Like, not to over spiritualize it, but that is how it felt. And every single step of the way, like in being faithful to the Lord through this transition, has given back to me so much more than I ever could have asked. Like, the life that I'm living now, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, like, what's your dream job? I would have been like, man, to help my friends like find community and find Jesus. And that's literally what I'm doing every single day. And my friends are here. They'll be here tonight. You'll meet them. Like, they're serving. They've been here every single week since we started. And it's just like, they're all crying the first night watching all the cars come in. Like, they're in it. They're bought in. They're attached. Like, they want Minnesota, the Twin Cities young adults to know Jesus just like we get to. And so, yeah, it was a decision I made and like haven't looked back since, because the Lord has given me such a sense of peace throughout the whole entire thing. And we just have so much fun. So,
yeah, we say we have the best jobs in the world.
We always say
so
that.
Like, and we say that sometimes like when we're doing some things
Maybe
that just feel hard.
sarcastically.
Yeah, it's like we're refilling cans of soda into a cooler, and it's like, yo, even though that sometimes this feels like a small thing that we're having to do, like, we have the best jobs in the world, seriously. And I think it reminds me of I think first time I ever preached, I preached through the story of Joshua crossing into the Promised Land, and the idea that like the Ark of the Covenant like is being held by these priests, and they're walking into rushing water, right? They have to take a step of faith, believing that God is going to stop this rushing water, and they stand in it. And so they're standing in it. It feels tumultuous and scary, and miles ahead of this water, God dams up this river, and eventually the river starts to slow down and stop. But it isn't until they take that step of obedience, step into the water, that God stops the flow. And I think a lot of times that's what faith in action looks like. It's this moment of, I'm just gonna faithfully take a step, and God opens up this door, and it feels like, man, I'm being faithful. Again, we talked about Greg Coco, like, I'm gonna be faithful with what's right in front of me. And Tavia leaves a bougie job. She leaves a healthy salary. She leaves a whole bunch of stuff. And the way that God has opened up doors for her is pretty incredible. And the code does not thrive. Like, I say this all the time. The code does not thrive without Tavia on our team. Like, God just knew. And so I think that's been the story of my life too. Just taking a step, saying, yes, I will obey you, Lord. I don't know what that looks like, but I trust you. And God just like opening up doors that I could have never imagined experiencing. So I just said imagined like a Minnesotan. That's been happening to me lately. I say boxes, which is hilarious. But it's because I joke about it with my kids, and then they'll be like, Dad. And I'm like, oh gosh, why did I just say it like that? But anyway, like, God's faithfulness is so present as we say just yes. Like, just I want to step out. I want to say, yes, God, I'll obey you. I trust you. Let your will be done in my life. Like, let heaven come down to our city. I want our city to be transformed by you. And God just does some miraculous stuff with like a yes. Simple, yet sometimes profound. We'll look back, at that yes, that moment of obedience. And my kids will tell stories. I like want them to tell the story of like, my parents just said yes, even if it meant leaving a ton behind, because we obey God. Like, we're just going to be obedient to the Lord, not knowing what is next. But God knows what's next.
Well, and it's also like, even hearing y'all's stories, like, I think when you're in it, that was a huge decision. Oh my gosh, what happens if I leave? And it's the biggest regret of my life. And I'm just learning, like, when you unplug from the matrix, you start to realize there's really not that big of, like, worst case, you just move back to Washington. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you don't love it. That's just, like, you're probably not going to hate it, but like, worst case, you could call your boss right now and
Mhm.
she'd offer you that same job. Like, hopefully that doesn't happen. But my point is, like, you know, it's but you both in a place where your gifts, like the how you're wired, your giftings, like from what Juan Jeff that topic, you're thriving, like you are in a sweet spot. And I think we forget that when we say yes, either God gives us what we need in order to do that, or a lot of times he calls us into a space where you're like, when you're thriving, and you probably thought in Idaho that was as good as it got.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know what healthy could be like. I didn't know what,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, just being in this sweet pocket
Mm.
could actually be like. So,
Yeah.
proud of both of y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been
It's
fun.
been so fun. Like, you'll see tonight. It's just a good time. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on a Tuesday. So,
Yeah, stories of people whose lives have been affected, stories like Sophia or Tony, or like people who did not know Jesus or were not walking faithfully with Jesus, now knowing Jesus. You're like, man, like what an incredible way I can live my life to make much of Jesus, and I get to do it with some of the most incredible leaders in the world. So it's been a really special, I think, season for us and our families, and really learning to trust the Lord. And anyway, I'm excited to hear more about faith and doubt tonight. And honestly, you know, if I wanted to hear more about that, say tonight, I'm really intrigued.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dude, what else does Drew have to say about this? Like, what does curiosity even like look like? Where can we find your book? What's it called? Tell us a little, like, hey, what can we expect from it?
Yeah, I wrote a book on curiosity. Means I guess I'm the expert now. If I do say so, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's called The Magic of Curiosity. And it's on Amazon. That's probably the easiest way to, to get it. It's an Audible.
Are you reading
Kindle
it?
version. I did. I read it
Wow.
Let's
myself.
go.
So you may watch this podcast and go, no thanks, I'll read it myself.
no.
Cool.
I'm gonna read it personally.
Yeah, you have it actually.
Yeah, I do have it.
Yeah.
I do have
Yeah.
it. Oh
I got
my
it. I got
gosh.
it for I got it for
Yeah,
both
that
of
was
us
my first week of work.
last summer.
That's
Yeah.
really sweet.
We got a lot of books, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Gets lost in the
That
shuffle,
works.
but
Yeah.
it'll come
now
back.
you
out.
have that face. to
Yeah,
put
now
with
I
it.
know.
Now you
Now
know
I
the
know how
voice.
cool it's gonna
She's
be.
listening to the Audible, you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna.
I read it was like 2023 I just fell in love with curiosity. And I think that's what kind of reawoke it inside of me, that moved I don't know, kind of led my health journey, and even my spiritual journey. And so I just got really intrigued. So I bought every book on the topic of curiosity. There's only like 10. I read them all, and then I was like, there's a lot
Missing.
that's missing.
Mm.
And so so I wrote The Magic of Curiosity.
Cool.
I love it.
Well, sweet. Well, we loved getting to spend time with you.
Yeah,
Obviously, we
thank
don't
you
have
so
hours and
much.
hours. We could
Yes.
talk forever, but yeah, we're excited for you to have you tonight, and really thankful that you're able to kind of help our young adults process life and doubt and faith and journey alongside of you. So thankful for you in the ways that you serve us. So
Thanks
Yeah.
for that.
Thank you.
sweet.
Guys.